Okay, good morning. We are team number 3. We are going to present how people do business in Costa Rica and in Norway. First of all, we're going to begin with Costa Rica. Costa Rica is known because of all of its natural resources, the green land, the landscapes, the views, and everything like that, on the Pura Vida Costa Rica. But we want to know something more about Costa Rica. Costa Rica was discovered by Christopher Columbus in 1502, and he landed there, and something special happened. All of the Spanish people saw a lot of pieces of gold in Costa Rica, and they named Rich Coast, in Spanish Costa Rica, because of that. But there was a misunderstanding, because all the gold that was in Costa Rica came from Mexico, but they didn't know that. After this, in a lot of years later, in 1832, Costa Rica got its independence. A few years later, they started exporting coffee, which they are a top country in exportation of coffee, and they started some years of peace and prosperity. After that, in 1948, a civil war began because there was a conservative regime and a kind of populist communism, and this led to a civil war with about 2,000 people were killed of Costa Rica, of ticos, as they are called. Talking about the religion, the people of Costa Rica and about an 80% are Catholics and
We're talking about Costa Rica. Go ahead.
yeah, Costa Rica, and then 19% I think are 9% are Protestants, and the official language is Spanish. The second language is English, and there are 11 ethnias or ethnic languages. And that's all for the introduction.
So, Costa Rica, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the business making in Costa Rica. So, if you want to get in Costa Rica and doing business, there are some things you need to know before you enter and start working in the workplace in Costa Rica. There are some strategies that will be very, very useful for you, and one of this is to know how the decision making works. Costa Rica and the workplace is very accessible. They are frank and they are open-minded at the time of the decision making. Also, they make agreements with consent of all the workers. They not only listen to top position decisions, they are democratic and listen to each and every one of their employees. The foreign investment in Costa Rica is really huge. So everyone wants to get and invest in Costa Rica. So the competition for if you are a foreign country and you want to invest in Costa Rica is really tough. You're competing with a lot of countries. So to get and make the business of Costa Rica, you need to always be frank. You need to be formal. You need to be polite, so you can relate in a better way with your fellow Costa Rican coworkers. I'm going to talk about the protocols you need to follow when you are interacting with the ticos. As Jorge said, they are not Ricans, they are ticos. They can really get angry if you call it Ricans. So, if you're talking with a man formally in the workplace, you need to only shake hands. Backslapping, it's not well seen in Costa Rica. You cannot backslap. That in other Latin countries is well seen. In Costa Rica, we don't see that. Women usually shake their hands and pat shoulder or forearm. That in business. Close women, they usually hug and kiss the cheek. Men are not used to hug, they only shake hands and greet each other. When you treat with rural citizens or rural people, you don't shake hands. They might feel intimidated about it. So if you want to make business with farmers or people in the rural environment, you only say hi or talk by their name, because they can really get intimidated. As Jorge said, they are ticos, not Ricans. I have a friend of Costa Rica, and we are ticos, we're not Ricans. So if you get invited to a business party or a social party, handshake, you play safe with everybody, you just shake their hands. And also, people you address with last name. So Jorge is Wong, Kathy is Engels, and Jorge is Villarreal. Only to family and close friends, you refer to them as their name. A last advice, when you are talking, if you are like speak English or a language, try to everything translate to Spanish for the ticos. They like everything in Spanish as it is. So that's more or less some tips and tricks you need to know if you want to get in Costa Rica and make business. Thank you.
Well, now I'm going to talk about the history and culture of Norway. Firstly, we have to talk about the Vikings. The Vikings were freed for their raids throughout northern Europe from the 8th to 11th century. These Vikings eventually became the Norwegians, the Swedes, and the Danes. Political power became concentrated in Denmark, which came to rule much of Scandinavia, including Norway. A rival power became, which was Sweden. During the Napoleonic Wars, Denmark was sided with Napoleon. To punish Denmark, the post-war Congress of Vienna took away Norway from Denmark and gave it to Sweden in 1815. After a century of Sweden occupation, Norway peacefully gains its independence in 1905. Today, Norway is the world's third largest producer of crude oil, behind Saudi Arabia and Russia. Moreover, Norway declined to join the European Union in 1994. The government of Norway is that Norway is a multi-party constitutional monarchy. There are three branches of government. The executive branch is made of the king, who is the chief of state, the prime minister, who is the head of the government, and a cabinet, also termed the council of ministers. Executive power actually resides in the council of ministers in the name of the king or king's council. The legislative branch is a modified unicameral parliament known as the Storting. Members of the Storting are elected according to a system of proportional representation, and they serve for 4 years. Well, the official language of Norway is the Norwegian, which is a Germanic language related to Icelandic, Swedish, and Danish. This language has two forms: a book language, which is used in the school or broadcasting, and a common spoken language known as nynorsk. Norway is a complete religious freedom, but it does have an official state church that his name is State Church of Norway. About 24% of the people belong to this church, and the traditional occupations of the Norwegians were a hard lifestyle, and Norwegians attribute many of their national characteristics to this, like toughness, stubbornness, and self-sufficiency.
Okay, now some strategies for doing business in Norway is that first you have to be respectful and polite so that the Norwegians don't feel offended, and also know all of the things that they don't like for you to do. And also it is really important to be organized and be prepared for when attending meetings. And the protocols is that women and men also when they greet, they say morn, meaning good morning at any time of the day. They are often quiet, and so technically you have to avoid speaking loud, because if not, they will get offended, or like they are gonna feel uncomfortable. And then the order of the name, when addressing to someone, the order of the names is that first you have to say their first name and then their last name, and or also you can say their last name but without the sir and Mrs. The gestures is for Norwegians is that when someone tosses up their head, it means come here. In addition, don't feel offended when someone enters the room and the other person doesn't rise or stands up to say hello. But when you're being introduced by someone, it is really important for you to stand up and rise. Also, in meeting, when talking with your hands in your pockets, it is considered too casual, so avoid doing that, so that you are seen more professional. And the North American thumbs up, for them, it's considered very insulting. And finally, some tips to doing business in Norway is that tend to be more informal. They don't always dress formally, and try to be punctual, because the Norwegian are the least punctual in the Northern Europe, and it isn't common for them to start 15 minutes late. But if you're a foreign person, it is important for you to be punctual. And they prefer doing business by telephone and not by email or letter. But if it's important for you to write an email, be sure that it is short and to the point. Be prepared when having a meeting, and also be prepared to talk about your company's environmental policies, because for them it is really important to take care of their environment. And try to speak clear English clear, because it is so that native speakers can understand you. And that is how you can do business in Norway and Costa Rica.
And as a conclusion, we think that these kind of activities like you are very important, because we are in a time of globalization. We're competing not with people in the classroom, we're competing with people in other parts of the world, as other countries. And it is very important to know how they are working, how they prepare, how they do business. So thank you for your attention.
Thank you.
At least the base